Then we go back to civil society with the Turkish Institute for Democracy and Human Rights. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Ahmad Shahidov. I represent Turkish Institute for Democracy and Human Rights. Media freedom and freedom of expression are fundamental values of every society, and democratic societies cannot exist without these values. Today I want to make a brief comment on the situation in the field of media freedom in Turkey, because Turkey is one of the most criticized countries in this field. I do not consider many of these criticisms to be valid, because as a person living in Turkey, I can say that the media freedom and freedom of expression are so free in Turkey that even terrorist forces that threaten the national security of the Turkey widely use the opportunities of the media. I remember well during the elections held in Turkey in May of this year, the leaders of PKK terrorist organization conducted the election propaganda through the media. Can you imagine how is it possible? But in Turkey we observe it, and this is the reality. Each country represented here has its own national security strategy, and each country thinks about its national interest first. In general, of course, the issues of media freedom and the security are interrelated, and there has always been an intense debate about which of these two values is more important. And I think that media freedom cannot exist without security, and likewise security is meaningless without media freedom as well. I do not believe that if someone in the United States calls for terrorist attack in Washington, D.C., that person can freely walk in the street and become even a journalist. Or some American journalist stands up and publishes an article about Bin Laden's so-called innocence and harshly criticizes the White House anti-terror policy. This is not possible at all. And the United States is the most security-aware country in the world. Even the US Army conducts military operations in distant Iraq, Syria and Afghanistan against forces that threaten America's national interests, and this is quite normal. I respect US policy on security. But the situation in Turkey is different. Today the forces and terrorists who threaten Turkey's national security can openly promote themselves in the local media. A number of televisions, newspapers and news websites operating in Turkey today openly defend the PKK, FETÖ and other terrorist organizations. This is called democracy, and it's very strange. Even some Western countries provide conditions for members of terrorist organizations such as PKK and FETÖ in their countries. Today, FETÖ operates comfortably in the United States of America and PKK in Sweden, and this is considered freedom of expression in those countries. Today, the Holy Quran is being burned in Stockholm, and the Swedish government presents it as a freedom of expression. But when the Turkish state fights against those terrorists, the United States and other countries criticize Turkey. I want to give a concrete example. Last week, a terrorist attack was carried out in Ankara, and two terrorists who attacked the Minister of Internal Affairs of Turkey carried out a terrorist act by blowing themselves up. And a television channel called Halk TV in Turkey talked about the innocence of these terrorists, and a lady named Ayşenur Aslan, who called herself as a journalist, openly tried to defend those terrorists. It was because of her speech, that journalist program was closed. And this morning I saw on Twitter some pro-Western organizations started to defend that journalist and claim that freedom of expression is restricted in Turkey. I'm asking here, if someone defends Russia's occupation policy in Ukraine, if someone defends Putin's aggression plans for Ukraine, how will they treat the activities of that journalist in Ukraine? From this point of view, I think that Turkey's national security is more important, and when commenting on freedom of expression in Turkey, the situation should be closely evaluated, and the rights of the Turkish nation should be also taken into account. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Then we go to the